Hello and welcome back to Mystery of Israel Radio. I'm Tom Quinlan, your host, and this is the program that focuses on the end of the age, that centers around Jesus, the Jewish people, Judah, Jerusalem, and what all that has to do with ordinary Gentile believers like you and me. So we've been in Daniel chapter 9 for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and we are going to be focusing on the last 3 verses tonight. So I'm going to start in verse 25, where it says, "Know therefore," this is Gabriel speaking to Daniel, and he is trying to impart the answer to Daniel's prayer regarding the restoration of Jerusalem after its destruction 70 years before. And so Gabriel is telling him that there are 77s decreed. At the end of the 70 years, there's going to be a restoration, but there's 77s decreed for the future of his people, for critical things that will have to do with Israel's ultimate restoration to the land. And so it says in verse 25, Gabriel speaking to Daniel, "Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment or the word to restore and build Jerusalem unto Messiah the Prince shall be 7 sevens and 62 sevens. The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times." I believe that is the 7 sevens. "And after 62 sevens shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. And the end thereof shall be with a flood. And unto the end of the war desolations are determined." Verse 27. "And he," who is the he? There are 2 princes that are mentioned in verse 26. Messiah the Prince, the one that shall be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood. So there's the prince that's going to be cut off, and there's the prince that's going to destroy the city and the sanctuary. The city and the temple that's going to be rebuilt in the 7 sevens after the decree or the word to restore it. So there's going to be a destruction. But this destruction is going to take us unto the consummation, to the end of the war. Desolations are determined. Verse 27, "And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 7. This would be the 70th 7. We've had 7 sevens and 62 sevens. This would be the 70th and last 7 that are decreed for Daniel, his people, and his city. And we'll have to talk about this confirmation of the covenant in a future session. "He shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 7, and in the middle of the 7, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate." This prince is going to cut off the sacrifice and the oblation, and he's going to make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. So by itself, this verse is very difficult. But we have other visions in this book to compare and contrast. We've been hearing about time periods like time, times, and a half a time in chapter 7. That seems like it could match up with in the middle of the 7. Time times and half a time is 3.5 times, which is exactly the middle or half of 7. The 2300 days of Daniel chapter 8. If you'll remember chapter 8, it said, "Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint, which spake, How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice, and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? And he said unto me, Unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed." So that vision in chapter 8 also had to do with the sanctuary and the treading underfoot of it. But there's a figure of 2,300 days there. Well, that still fits in the scheme of this 7. 2,300 days is 6 1/3 years. In Daniel chapters 11 and 12, which we talked about a number of weeks back as a preview to this, we saw in 11 and 12 mention of the abomination that causes desolation, the one that Jesus told us to go look for in the Olivet prophecy of Matthew 24. He said, "When you see the abomination that causes desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, let the reader understand." Go to Daniel and understand this. "Then let those in Judea flee," is what Jesus said. So in Daniel chapter 11 and 12, twice we saw mention of the abomination that causes desolation. In Daniel chapter 11, verse 31, it says, "And arms shall stand on his part." And I'm going to be arguing that the his part is the same prince that is the people of the prince that shall come, shall destroy the city. Verse 31 of Daniel 11, "And arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and shall place the abomination that maketh desolate." Daniel chapter 12, verse 11, "And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days." That is very close to 3.5 years. Daniel chapter 9:27 said, "He shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 7, and in the middle of the 7 he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate." So what we're claiming here is that these 77s that are decreed for Daniel's people are taking us into the future when Daniel's people shall be restored, when the Gentile oppression of Israel, Judah, and Jerusalem, and the Jewish people will be brought to an end, when the exile of Jews throughout the world will cease. It's taking us to a time, as it says in Daniel chapter 12, verse 7, "I heard the man clothed in linen," who we're going to talk about in future weeks, "which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that lives forever, that it shall be for a time, times, and half a time. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people." God is determined to bring his ancient people to the end of their power. to the place, as it says in Hosea, when they acknowledge their offense, when they acknowledge that they have played a part in the crucifixion of their own Messiah, when they, as it says in Leviticus 26, verses 40 through 42, if they shall confess their iniquity, the iniquity of rejecting the one God has sent to save them from their sins, and the iniquity of their fathers, with their trespass which they have trespassed against me, and that also that they have walked contrary unto me, and that I have walked contrary unto them, and have brought them into the land of their enemies. If then their uncircumcised hearts be humbled, and they then accept of the punishment of their iniquity, then will I remember the covenant with Jacob, and also my covenant with Isaac, and also my covenant with Abraham will I remember, and I will remember the land. Now, I'm not just talking about God's relationship with the Jewish people. I'm talking about God's relationship with them as an indicator of how serious He is with His relationship with us. If He has been willing to leave His people in exile for 2,000 years over how they treated the one whom He sent, how will He differently deal with you, with me, on how we deal with His Son, Jesus, the Messiah? God is serious about this. The end of the age is built around the drama between Jesus and His ancient people from whom He came. He came into His own, and His own received Him not. He's making this the focus of end times drama so that all the world can know how serious God is about bringing each one of us into an individual relationship with His Son, to bring each one of us into an acknowledgement of our transgression against Him. And He is telling us these things so that by His word He can make our hearts tremble before the time, before the flood of evil comes raging through the earth. And we could argue that in many places that flood is already sweeping through. But His word is designed to bring us to a place of reckoning before the time, to prepare us in advance, to cause us to wrestle, to bring us to the place of blessed rest in Him before the chaos of these days comes. Until next time, this is Mystery of Israel Radio.